Hello, everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Project Infinite podcast, the podcast covering the ever-expanding and infinite multiverse of fandom, from movies, comics, TV shows, video games. We got you covered pretty much exclusively for Spider-Man this month.
We're booked up.
Yeah, we're booked until the end of the month. I'm Rob. That voice you just heard was that of my co-host, Courtney, who's here with me every week. Courtney, how's it going, man?
Doing great. Ready to give Andrew Garfield his rightful, deserving praise as Spider-Man.
Oh, yeah. I'm so excited for this. So, for those of you who didn't tune in last week, what we're going to do leading up to Spider-Man No Way Home is kind of do film retrospectives on every Spider-Man movie that we've gotten to this point. So last week we covered the Raimi trilogy / Tobey Maguire trilogy, everyone's favorite trilogy. And then this week we're going to talk about everyone's not so favorite. Is there like the word for two movies?
Duo? Sequels?
Duo? Yeah. The duo of Amazing Spider-Man films starring Andrew Garfield. But before that, we have some news.
Some breakdowns. Some stuff that's going on. I mean, the big one. Ooh. Miles Morales is back. So we got the first look at the much anticipated Into the Spider-Verse sequel.
Yep.
Across the Spider-Verse.
Yes.
And he's hopping universes. Boy, is he. Yeah. And I mean, I love the way they kind of opened up the trailer of like, it just goes back to like the heart of what that franchise is going to be. And
Post Malone.
Yeah. Nope. That's not it. The soundtrack's going to be crazy again.
Probably.
I only got to imagine. I mean, more artists are probably going to hop on there just from the success of the first one. But man, it's just him just being a kid in, where are they, Brooklyn? Like just him being a kid in Brooklyn that's like, post-puberty, just living life. Like, that's who Miles Morales really is.
Post Malone is to Into the Spider-Verse what Eminem is to Venom?
No.
Post Malone going to give us another track for Across the Spider-Verse? He's got it, right?
I think so.
Yes.
Made the biggest songs of 2018? I believe so, yeah. 2018, yeah, one of the biggest songs of 2018. So, yeah, so you kind of see an older Miles Morales, maybe even getting ready to be college, because I think he even mentions dorm. He could easily mean the dorm at Visions Academy, but he looks like genuinely older. Like, he could be like 18, because I think it was implied he was like, what, 14?
Because he just started at the academy.
Yeah, because I think they even make the joke where like he's 14 and she's 15 and a half or something like that. So I think that we could see like a 17-year-old Miles Morales in this one, and we get Haley Steinfeld back as Spider-Gwen. Oh, I almost forgot for a second. Spider-Gwen, Spider-Woman, and I mean she's great. Haley Steinfeld's at the top of the whole world right now. She can't do any wrong. I mean I think she's got some Emmy nominations if I'm not mistaken for Dickerson. I mean she's gonna be everybody's favorite Marvel character in a couple weeks if she already isn't, and she's playing one of the biggest female animated characters as of right now too. So yeah, a lot of stuff going for this movie. So we kind of see she comes back. He's grounded, which is hilarious. It's great. Yeah, he's grounded, and she says, "Is Spider-Man grounded?" And it just kind of, it's like allegorical for like, you're not grounded to this, and you're not grounded to this universe. Let's go on a little adventure.
Yeah. It's a part 1.
Oh, yeah, that was definitely the biggest surprise, this being a part 1.
Yeah, that's interesting. He tangles with Spider-Man 2099.
Yes. A lot of people's, one of their favorite, like, not obscure, but, like, outside-the-box comic book characters, too, which is cool. So, I mean, on top of that, Oscar Isaac's voicing Spider-Man 2099. So, I bet Oscar Isaac's like, man, I'm glad I'm not playing Apocalypse or Poe Dameron anymore, so if you guys are going to put me in these Marvel projects, make me cool. So, I mean, Moon Knight and Miguel O'Hara are two pretty cool comic book characters, so.
Yeah. I mean, I have full faith in whatever is happening in this to happen. So, yeah, I'm looking forward to seeing what that's about when it comes out next October.
Yeah, October 7th, 2022.
Yeah.
So, yeah, I mean, animation slick. The actors, and I just recently watched Into the Spider-Verse, the first one, and it's genuine dialogue. Like, you can tell not only did they spend a lot, because I know the big sell of that movie is like, oh, they spent so much time on the animation, which they did, but they also...
No, it's a good story.
Yeah, it's a good story, but it's the acting too. Like, it's so quippy and it's so quick with it too. But it's never like, it doesn't feel like rushed or like forced. It's always very organic humor, which I really appreciate.
Which can be hard to do in animated projects, CG projects. Because more often than not, the actors are not together. They're listening to the other dialogue in their headset, and then they're reading their lines, and maybe sometimes they have the visual to go along with that, but it's difficult to have good back and forths, good dialogue in animated CG projects. So they nailed that in the first one. I'm expecting more of that in this one.
Yeah, definitely.
Matrix.
Man, that trailer, like you said earlier, yeah, definitely got me more hooked. Definitely got me on board a little bit more. And it looks very... You even made the point before we hopped on that it's giving you kind of that origin, just like the Ghostbusters trailer kind of tries to do. It's giving you like that outside the box like origin, and just last week on Matrix, which is a good thing because Matrix definitely is a little bit more difficult to consume for like a first time viewer that wasn't there watching it in 2000. Like it's much more difficult to consume. So it's good that they kind of did that, and it just got you hyped because Matrix, I always say, is one of the building blocks for modern day action. Like we wouldn't have a lot of the modern day action. I mean, just down to the slow-mo itself, like that's the blueprint for it. So, man, you can't hate my man. You can't hate him. He's just, man, I don't know what it is. He has it.
He has it.
He has the it factor.
He has it. Yeah, we're talking about Keanu Reeves, by the way.
Yeah, sorry.
Yeah, I mean, this is the role that really put him on the map.
Oh, yeah.
And to see him return to it all these years later when he's got other successful franchises under his belt.
You mean Bill and Ted's Excellent Adventure?
Yes. But also John Wick.
I mean, another point for him for John Wick is that's another action franchise that kind of revolutionized Hollywood's take on what modern action is, and it's a lot of, because you even see it. I mean, Shang-Chi, like, it's a lot of hand-to-hand action with little to no camera cuts nowadays. I mean, that was the whole sell for the movie Nobody, or what was it? Was it Nobody with the guy from Breaking Bad?
Yep.
Yeah, like, that's the whole sell. Like, this is this new era of action where it's straight hand-to-hand action of, like, them trying to do more stunts than like having their stunt double would do, and he really kind of revolutionized that again with
and
John Wick.
Now here's the Matrix, like with the y'all must have forgot.
Oh yeah,
you know what I mean? Like,
he even has the line, and it's like, I still know kung fu.
Right, exactly. Yeah. It's kind of like a meta line. To be honest with you, it's all these other action movies have taken off since we've done a thing. You've had Mission Impossible, you've had Bourne, you've had all the Bond, the new Bonds,
the MCU itself,
the MCU, John Wick, which you talked about. And they all, in one way, shape, or form, take stuff from The Matrix.
Right.
Because The Matrix was the originator of a lot of modern action stuff. So now,
even story-wise, too, The Matrix was pretty dang original, if you think about it as well. It's really intricate, too, and it has so many layers to it, which a lot of modern-day action, I mean, just a lot of modern-day stories can't say the same for themselves. So
now here we are, some 20 years later, and they're like, hey, we're The Matrix is back.
We're running it back.
Yeah, and these types of things are always hit or miss, and I think I said to you earlier, the first trailer didn't really wow me. I was like, oh boy, this could be kind of like cash grabby and just building off the name, but then the second trailer came out, and I'm like, oh no, like, I think this could actually be really good.
Yeah.
So I'm excited for that. We have some other casting news. We have... I'm not there yet.
You saw the smile on my face.
The Last of Us has recast Bill.
Yes.
And Nick Offerman is coming to The Last of Us.
Yes. I love it. I love Nick Offerman. So I'm about to go on a tangent, right? So it's peak pandemic, and we're all feeling similar. We're stuck in the house. It's really mentally draining. You're isolated, whatever, and we all kind of have things to kind of latch onto. So I know I speak about Denis Villeneuve being kind of like the king of sci-fi in the modern age. He really is. But there's another fellow gentleman named Alex Garland that did Ex Machina and Annihilation, and I love his sci-fi work as well. And it's even to the point where Denis even himself has talked about Alex Garland and them being like peers and like him really respecting his work. So I think I told you this before we hopped on. I love when, Robin Williams and Steve Carell are my two that I go to, those comedic actors that go into drama roles. And there's this show on FX called Devs, and boy, was I blown away. I didn't expect it. It was so multi-layered and so it was really like an existential kind of ride the whole way. And it kind of dealt with free will versus determinism. And they kind of found, minor spoilers, they found a way to look forward and past into the future. So they found a way to look in the past. And then they were trying to use that same equation to try to peer into the future. And Nick Offerman gave, in my opinion, one of the best performances on television in the last couple of years. It's so good. It's so subtle. It's so heartbreaking too, his performance. So something like that, where he's not going to be your typical Nick Offerman, like stone, dry humor type of thing. It's not going to be that. And I really got that from Devs, and that's why I'm so excited.
Yeah, I mean, there's going to be probably some of that for the character that he's playing in The Last of Us. So a little background on Bill. He is kind of he's a survivalist that kind of essentially runs his own town by himself in The Last of Us. And he's kind of like he has an exchange kind of with Joel. Joel gives him stuff. Bill gives Joel stuff, and that's kind of how their relationship is. He's very kind of paranoid, being a person that essentially lives alone. He lives with another man, Frank, who by the time that The Last of Us takes place is deceased. I think we'll see probably them together since this is going to span a little bit more than the game did. But he's very like paranoid, but very like quick-witted, very humorous, very, quick to snap back at you. When you quip at him, he quips back. Very, what's the word I'm looking for? He's very competent. He's much more of a survivalist than even Joel is. He's got traps for traps. So I'm excited to see. And this is a good bit of casting by them. He's replacing Con O'Neill, who was attached to the role already, and I believe had to bow to scheduling conflicts. So Nick Offerman is not a bad replacement.
Yeah, like I said before, I really like Nick Offerman, especially some of the stuff he's done lately. Like, not just doing those straight up comedy roles like he's used to. Like, he's really rounding. I mean, Nick Offerman's, he's one of the better actors in Hollywood itself. So he's really like rounding himself out with some of these roles. And I'm really excited to kind of see. People just don't make comedy. People just don't make drama. They're actors at the end of the day. So I really want to see what he's going to bring to this role.
And man, this cast is stacking up.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it is.
So Bella Ramsey and Pedro Pascal, both Game of Thrones alums, are the Joel and Ellie. Gabriel Luna from the latest Terminator film, as well as Ghost Rider.
Yes. Yes.
Is Joel's brother Tommy, and now we have Nick Offerman. So, I'm starting to get more excited for this Last of Us thing as I hear about it. And the more I hear about it, the more excited I get for it.
My biggest thing, too, is it's an HBO production, so that alone is going to give you kind of the grandeur of the situation.
Please keep adapting video games into TV shows instead of movies.
Yeah, HBO, y'all are onto something. Yes.
Yeah. And then the last bit of thing before we get into Spider-Man is it's not really casting news so much as it is like
confirmation.
Yeah, like don't worry news. Kevin Feige has confirmed that, in his Kevin Feige ways, saying if we were to ever do Daredevil,
wink wink,
right, Charlie Cox will be portraying him.
The speed of the text message I sent you was so immediate. I was so happy. I've been rewatching Daredevil. I think we just talked about because I always say, and like if you know me, I probably have said it before, that I think Daredevil season 2 from episode 1 to 4 is some of the best television you'll ever see. Like the Punisher arc, it's so raw and so good. I mean, just down to the action, the storytelling, the way it's shot too is one of the best shot shows that I've seen. But Charlie Cox he understands. It's like the full understanding of what a character is from what the source material is. Even, I mean, the guy dyed his hair red once he got the role, and they said, you don't need to do that. And he's just like, just that dedication alone just tells you exactly what he brought to the role. I mean, he's so real as Charlie Cox. He feels like a real person.
He's real as Charlie Cox?
Yeah, oh my bad. As Daredevil.
I'd hope he'd be real as Charlie Cox.
Yeah, me too. Unless he's playing Daredevil. It's a man that plays a man that's playing another man. Shout out Tropic Thunder. But yeah, he's so real. It's just, you feel the realism from it. I mean, down to his little movements of his head that he has. I mean, in the courtroom, he has full control. Like, because that's who Daredevil is. He has this confidence about him because he lost his sight, but he overcame it. So like, Matt Murdock has this confidence in him. Like, that's a real character trait that I really like. And I love how Kingpin just immediately takes it away, like the dichotomy they have between the two of them. But man, I can sing the praises of Charlie Cox at the end of the day. That's what, if this could be a character podcast, it would be a Daredevil podcast.
That's a good idea for some future episodes.
Yeah. And yeah, Daredevil's getting one, guys. I didn't think that's happening.
This is a no-brainer, to be honest. When you have a popular character that's been adapted, you have an actor that a lot of people have universally acclaimed as the actor for that role.
I mean, it's not Ben Affleck.
Look, those movies are not that movie's not as bad as one might think, but
product of their time,
right? And like I said, this is a no-brainer. If he's available and he wants to do it, do it.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, you saw this in Far From Home when they brought J.K. Simmons back.
Mm-hmm.
Why bother getting another guy when you have a guy that people already like?
Right.
And if that guy or gal is more than willing to do the role, yeah. Mm-hmm. Duh. Why not? So I think this basically confirms that he's going to be in No Way Home.
Yeah, I think so too. I think so.
And this comes off the back end of spoilers for Hawkeye Episode 3. There are some heavy-handed hints that Wilson Fisk is coming.
Yes.
To Hawkeye. So
I'm not as sold as you are. And this is funny because it's always the other way with the two of us. Mm-hmm. I'm usually the one that I'm not as sold because I've been gypped twice and I'm not falling for it again. Loki was the only one which actually kind of exceeded, but still I was gypped because I just thought it was going to be another version of Loki. Mm-hmm. But yeah, I'm thinking... I'm telling you, I think it's Armand. I just think it was Armand, and that's why they called him Uncle, because he is Jack's uncle. I think that's what it's going to to be.
It could be.
And they were, it could be her dad.
Yeah,
it could be Kate's dad. That would be interesting.
It could be. Yeah, I just from the hand to the to the way that they talk about him is very like talk about Daredevil season 1, very like my employer. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean from Daredevil season 1.
Shout out Wesley.
Yeah,
man, it's the best. I love this show so much.
But yeah. With Fisk possibly returning folding into the MCU, this news on top of that, like I said, you get people who want to do these roles and who the audience appreciates. Put them in this stuff. Don't overthink it.
Yeah. So, let me ask you this question: if there's one other character that you can throw in the MCU, you only get to pick one, because I'm assuming more of them
from where
the Netflix shows. And why is it Bushmaster?
That's a good pick. I would have to say Bernthal.
Oh, easily. I'm not going to pick Bernthal because I think it would be too easy to pick Bernthal. I mean, I think Luke Cage, Mike Coulter's Luke Cage would be real good.
Honestly, if I could veer off of the Netflix, I think we talked about this probably in episode 1, or not 1, whatever the episode was that we did underrated seasons. I would love to see Olivia Holt and Aubrey Joseph come back.
Oh yeah, they would be good,
Cloak and Dagger.
Especially in this new Marvel Disney Plus era. They would probably be really good. I mean, the same thing. If Charlie Cox gets this Daredevil show, I can more than see them maybe even getting the Runaways mixed up with them too, or maybe doing the Runaways with Cloak and Dagger on the team. Like, they had so much potential with that young adult era of the Runaways.
And those two, I mean, we'll talk about this probably when we talk about Amazing Spider-Man. Those two actors in particular have wicked chemistry.
Yeah, they do.
Specifically in the second season of Cloak and Dagger. They have wicked chemistry together. So if Cloak and Dagger is ever on the plate for the MCU, I'd love to see them bring those two actors back. And I don't want this to become a thing where, like, we can't have new actors portraying old roles, specifically with the X-Men coming up.
Yes. Oh, yeah, that's going to be... That's a great point.
Like, I don't want to get trapped in this just recast the old actors thing, because, coincidentally enough, I don't want that to happen with X-Men. I want new actors.
Yeah, me too.
Weirdly enough.
Yeah, I want them... Because I think we talked about this, I can't remember what episode it was, but the Trek of the X-Men. I think we talked about this, honestly, in the Guardians of the Galaxy game, because we talked about... No, I think this is whenever we talked about Will Poulter being cast as Adam Warlock. I think we talked about this. I don't want Hugh Jackman back. He gave his all to that role, and it just wouldn't make sense for him to come back. I want genuine, sort of unknowns. If you were to get a bigger actor, I maybe not do the high school, but I said, like, you don't... From a character lens too, you don't need to start with like your Storms,
right.
I would personally start with the first team that they had. Do it more like X-Men First Class, but with like it would be Beast, Angel, Jean Grey, Scott, Professor X, and Iceman, like that team, and then have them the climax of one be like, oh shoot, they got trapped on Krakoa and Scott's the only one that survived, and then get the rest of them. That would be kind of cool to start a second movie. So no, I agree, but I don't want to see any of the like Sophie Turner. Like, they did good for what they got, but I don't want to see them back necessarily.
And I think it's important what you said about Hugh Jackman in particular, because I think that's the one people want to see the most. But like you said, that story ended. And seeing him again would kind of retroactively dampen Logan a little bit.
Yeah, it would.
the difference between, say, for instance, Hugh Jackman and this Charlie Cox thing, if they were to ever bring Bernthal or Cloak and Dagger, is these characters' stories were never finished.
No.
You know what I mean? At the end of The Punisher season 2, he's just becoming the Punisher.
Right, yeah.
Like, for real.
Right.
You know, he's got the trench coat and the skull shirt, and he's just going, like, Billy Russo is dead, and he's just moving on to focusing on being the Punisher.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that would be a great thing to have him pick up, you know, in the MCU, being the Punisher.
Right.
You know what I mean? You could even if you want to play, like, the alternate universe game where the Netflix shows kind of maybe sort of don't count, put him up against Daredevil again.
That would be great. Yeah, I mean, what would work from that? I do have a fear, and this is the fear that, I mean, probably everybody's thinking with this. It's going to lose some of the grit and grind that some of these Netflix shows, but I don't not trust the MCU. You know what I mean? Like, I trust them to make the right decision in moment. And not every Punisher storyline, I mean, it's the most dark, but not every Daredevil comic is dark like that. Trust me, it's not. They can probably benefit from doing something along the lines of, like, a Winter Soldier's, like, it feels a little bit, I mean, Civil War, I mean, with the end scene in Civil War, that's pretty dark. I mean, it's kind of double-faceted with Zemo and Black Panther, like the emotional, and then the physical with Bucky, Iron Man, and Captain America. Like, you have the balance of, like, these, it's pretty dark storytelling if you think about it.
The
like,
MCU can do drama, guys.
Yeah, they can.
It's not just all quips and fun, and
Yeah.
they can do drama.
Yeah,
And
I mean, Falcon and the Winter Soldier is probably, in my opinion, I'm probably gonna catch some hate retroactively, and it's probably gonna be like, it's gonna be months or years from now when I say that I really, really like Falcon and the Winter Soldier, and I don't understand some of the hate from it. Then I think it's one of the better shows that they've done, and it's probably the most grounded and feels like the most, like, shoot, something needs to be done show. Like, that's how I kind of get the feeling from that. But yeah, man, he's back.
Yeah,
He's back.
Very cool. I mean, like I said, I forget when I said this, but I said Marvel, the MCU is in the business of people pleasing. This is the most people-pleasing move that they could do as it pertains to Daredevil.
Right.
You know what I mean? Because honestly, it wouldn't even be fair to try and be like, hey, we're bringing Daredevil back and here's this new person. Because everyone would be like, boo this new person.
Right.
Regardless of how good they are. They could be the best actor in the world.
Yeah,
but people just aren't going to give it a fair shake.
Yeah, unless it was Ben Affleck.
The only way they could pull it off is if they were like, hey, here's, we're bringing Daredevil back, we cast this person, and here's the thing that, you know, shows like a 3-minute like teaser trailer, and the person like wows us off the screen. That's the only way that they'd be able to do it. Otherwise, they'd just be like, boo, we want Charlie Cox. And we'll talk about this, kind of, sort of, when we talk about Amazing Spider-Man with this.
Oh, yeah.
Which we're going to do now, because that was all the news, I think.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just wanted to ask you bringing Iron Fist back? Because I guess I'm just going to add a last-minute piece of news. Shang-Chi sequel, obviously.
Oh, that's right. Shang-Chi sequel. That was the other thing. Remember I said I forgot a thing?
And I think
that was it.
We never talked about this on the pod, but we talked about it when we were walking out of Shang-Chi, because we talked about this, like, you're very big in the character, which I am, but I'm like a huge world building kind of person, and I love lore. So I was thinking, as soon as they said the dragons in the other cities, I was like, oh shoot, like Shao-Lao the Undying and like the Immortal Iron Fist, that's one of the cities that's
New York
there.
City, and the dragon that lives under New York.
Right.
That's another dragon.
So crazy. What were we doing in Iron Fist and the Defenders? Oh no. But would you bring, I mean, so this is the counter to that. Would you recast Iron Fist to get him into Shang-Chi 2? Because I think if you were to introduce the Hand as the villain of Shang-Chi 2 and have Iron Fist and him team up, I think you probably have a hit on your hands. Because it would also kind of be, you know what it would feel like? It would feel like the new Bond movie, No Time to Die, with Lashana Lynch and Daniel Craig. Like, who's really like the best out of the two of us? Because you know what would be funny? Yeah, if they were like, cool, Shang-Chi, he's supposed to be the most dangerous man in the world, but here's this kid that was trained in the mountains from, I'm not talking like from he was 10 up until he was like an adult. Or
here's Shang-Chi, and here's Jessica Henwick as Iron Fist.
Because she was supposed to be in Shang-Chi, but she backed out. Listen,
we're reckoning about that.
Yeah, we're into second chances around here. No, that would be kind of an interesting concept. I mean, even Colleen Wing, the actress that played her, like, she can be Iron Fist. But yeah, I mean, I was reading some Immortal Iron Fist, like, dude, Iron Fist is such a great character. He really is. I mean, the Seven Cities thing, it just, I don't want to get into Iron Fist, but
Yeah.
I didn't think, like, that's such a big thing from the comics, especially the newer runs, and they kind of just pass it off in 2 episodes in Iron Fist. I'm like, dude, the whole thing's not going to open for another X amount of years now. Like, you need to take this, like, seriously, and this needs to be, like, that's like a whole season arc.
Yeah.
And it's not like 2 episodes, cool, it's done.
It's too much family drama.
Yeah.
We've litigated Iron Fist before.
Yeah.
But no, I think Iron Fist would be great to bring this to Shang-Chi and be like, the MCU be like, here you go. Here, we're gonna fix this.
Yeah,
we're gonna fix this character, and here's a person, and we're doing Iron Fist again.
Yeah, I think Shang-Chi and Iron Fist team up movie for the second one. Bring back, I mean, you can even get into another version of the Defenders if you have Shang-Chi and Iron Fist. I think Shang-Chi's on the Avengers path. Like, I think that's his whole thing. Like, he's on the Avengers path.
He got his badge.
And he's got the 10 rings.
He's got the 10 ring. He got his badge at the Avengers convention.
By Wong, of all
Wong,
people. I need them to keep Wong as the new Nick Fury. I don't know why that's such a funny thing. It's so good. Wong being the leader of the Avengers is, like, the dumbest, best thing in the world. Like, it's so crazy, but it makes the most sense. Because he's the most level-headed person in the entire MCU.
Yeah. Can't wait to see him be in No Way Home for 5 seconds telling Strange not to do a thing.
Yeah, and Strange just does the thing, and he's like...
Yeah. I'm glad that the Doctor Strange theories have died, by the way.
Yeah, I don't like we said, I don't think he's Strange, because it would be weird to introduce that into a movie that not only is not his own movie, it's also technically a different properties movie. It's not even it's not even like a full out MCU movie.
So I'm glad everyone had their fun with that theory, and when the first trailer dropped, and we were both like, nah, it's Doctor Strange.
Yeah.
And now, like, 2 months later, everyone's like, yeah, it's Doctor Strange.
He's LeVar Ball right now. He's never lost.
Yeah.
Never lost.
Like, yeah. Everyone now is like, yeah, it's Doctor Strange. And we're like, yeah, we know. We told you.
Yeah.
But, yeah. All right. You ready to talk some Amazing Spider-Man?
Oh, man, I'm ready.
All right. So
let's do a little background, because I think I gave you the background last time because, this was like your childhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So this was my childhood Spider-Man.
Yeah.
So I ended with 3, and then it was 2010, 2014, like this was my Spider-Man.
Yeah, so Spider-Man 3 with Tobey Maguire ends. That is 2007. We don't have Spider-Man in live action for 5 years, to 2012, when Sony is like, guess what, guys? We're doing Spider-Man again. And everyone's super excited, because they're like, hey, man, Spider-Man again. And they're like, well, Tobey Maguire's not in this one.
Yeah.
And everyone's like, wait, what?
Where is he? What's he doing?
So they cast Andrew Garfield in the role of Peter Parker. This is it's a little bit darker kind of take from what the Raimi movies were, which were a little more comic booky, a little more bright, even though obviously they had their dramatic moments. But this had kind of a sci-fi element, kind of a horror element, which is ironic considering that Sam Raimi did the first 3.
Yeah.
But this had...
Oh, trust Sam Raimi snuck some moments in those 3.
Yeah, the Doc Ock moment. But yeah, so Spider-Man is back, 2012, and that's where we kind of pick up. But
yes.
Yeah.
So, Andrew Garfield Spider-Man, right? You want to talk Andrew Garfield Spider-Man?
You want to talk about it now?
I mean, we're going to talk about it through the whole episode, but we might as well just get it out now.
He's great.
He's great, man. Good as Spider-Man.
He's great.
He is
he gets it.
Yeah, that's the thing. He understands what Spider-Man is. So, again, if you've talked to me over the last couple of weeks, I've kind of...
Spoilers, by the way, for this movie that came out 9 years ago.
Yeah. We're doing both, so yeah, sorry. Yeah. Sorry about that. But, yes, so...
This movie that you all hated.
Yeah.
You all.
Hey, here's the first hot take. First one specifically, not as bad on a rewatch. Really not as bad.
Yeah.
So, Andrew Garfield steps in, and immediately, you know the vibe I get immediately from him? It's the understanding of, like, Spider-Man, but it's also the understanding of, like, it feels more real how he would react to stuff that's going on that sucks as a 17-year-old kid.
It's the exact opposite. Seeing him on screen in the first one, I had the exact opposite reaction to seeing Tobey Maguire chasing a school bus in the first Raimi movie. I was like, oh yeah, like, he's he could be a kid, a young man, not a kid, but a young man. This is a young man who is on the cusp of graduating high school, preparing for his college life. I buy it immediately with him.
Yeah. And you want to talk chemistry. I mean, his love interest, because that's something that really defines Spider-Man in whatever movie that you see. Him and Emma Stone, I mean, it could have been the fact that they were dating at the time, whatever it may be. They are electric. You want that. You want that type of, maybe not the end of the second one, but you want that relationship with somebody else. They feel so real. And it's just those like subtleties that you kind of felt yourself in high school. I mean, we kind of talk ourselves, Bo Burnham, like the realism he presents in like 8th grade, like the rawness of like how we would react. I get that same similar vibe, or Edge of 17 with Haley Steinfeld. You get that same vibe from this.
Yeah, it's a passing glance here. It's when they're communicating and talking to each other, it's a lot of ums and stammering.
Yeah, because that's how we talk. We don't talk like, I'm going to the store to pick something up. Can you also pick me this up? It's like...
Especially when you're talking to somebody that you're really into.
Oh my gosh, you get so tongue-tied and he gets it. And it's also, I even told you this, it's vice versa too. Like, she also likes him, which I really appreciate because I never got that from Toby and
Kirsten Dunst.
Kirsten Dunst. Yeah, I never got that.
Even though they were lifelong best friends.
We don't need to. We talked about that last week.
No, but you're right. These two are electric, and again, I point to the Raimi movies. I think I told you on this podcast, every time MJ and Peter together, I checked out.
Yeah.
I checked my phone. I was looking at some other stuff. I was listening to like their dialogue in the background because I was not interested at all. But these two, when they're on screen together, I rewatched a couple of their scenes together multiple times watching this movie.
It's really good.
Just being like, wow. I told you the scene where they're on the balcony after he kind of has a little tiff with Gwen's dad at dinner, and he's trying to tell her that he's Spider-Man. Like, he wants to tell her, but he doesn't want to tell her. And then she goes like, she kind of like steps away and he webs her and spins her back to him. I'm like, Toby's Spider-Man could never pull that off.
Yeah. And it's funny. I was watching these movies, and so let's go the complaint. So let's stay character based for now. And then we're going to dive into like plot of 1 and 2. So Andrew as a character, his Spider-Man, the argument and the complaint is he's too cool. And then I watched the first one.
Me too.
And then I got my general understanding of what this movie was trying to do. So it's the argument he's too cool. And then I was like, is he too cool? Or is he a social outcast, but that's what was perceived as cool in the young adult era? And then I got it. And I immediately told you as soon as I got it. The first Amazing Spider-Man movie is a young adult movie, and it's right in the young adult era because it's 2012. Hunger Games, Divergent, The Maze Runner. Like, this is where it was. Like, it was with this. So it was, Perks of Being a Wallflower. Like, I told you I wanted to name this episode The Perks of Being Spider-Man because that's what it feels like in the first one. It's this social outcast kid that people can relate to.
Yeah, and does he seem too cool because he's the point of view character?
You're right.
And you spend the most time with him.
Yeah.
If you had seen that guy in high school, you wouldn't think he's the coolest guy in school.
No, you wouldn't.
You'd be like, there's the idiot with the skateboard again.
Right. You would think Flash Thompson, and he's also a nerd too. Like, they don't shy away from it. Like, he's super smart, and that's another thing I want to talk about when we talk Andrew's character. He's super smart, and they do the best job of immediately establishing this. Like, he goes to the basement with Uncle Ben, and right from the get-go, they're talking about pipes, and he corrects his uncle that probably has some knowledge on this right away as a 17-year-old kid. Works right there.
I think I told you that he says words, and I'm like, I don't understand a word you just said.
Yeah, you're smart. Yeah.
Whereas, like, I don't know how much sciencing Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man does.
So I even said it to you. We're always told how much potential and how smart he is, but we rarely see him actually do it, which isn't his fault because it's another piece of what these movies are. It's the first one specifically is a young adult movie, but the overarch of both these movies, they're really science fiction movies if you look at them. So science is garnered as a piece of this. So. Yeah, that's why I said, like, Toby's, it's not his fault that he didn't do as much sciencing because his movies were more dramas. Like, they were dramas that depicted the life of a man that just couldn't get ahead. But these are, like, sci-fi films of the science that goes into what makes Spider-Man and, like, the hero journey that he has to go on in this, too.
I like that. I like that he, sciences himself up when he becomes Spider-Man. He does the research. He's like, this is what I need from my suit. I need to develop this web shooter. Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man, like, just kind of has the suit. And I'm like, whoa, like, where did that come from? You know what I mean? You see Andrew, like, Googling, like, luge suits. And the first design's not spectacular, but I understand it.
It's kind of meta if you think about it, too, because it also feels... So I got this from the first half of the first Amazing Spider-Man to retroactive to Tobey Spider-Man. You feel like whatever one of them did, the other one didn't do. It's like his parents. It's the suit research. Like, all those things that one of them didn't do. I mean, it's the spider sense scene that Tobey doesn't have, because Tobey just kind of, you know, different moments just is aware of stuff, but they make it... This is, like, the number one besides Spider-Man Far From Home, where it's immediate that, like, he has the spider sense. Like, this is the most played out one in the MCU so far, minus, like I said, Far From Home, the ending of that movie.
Yeah. The rest of this cast is great. Everyone's great. We have Dennis Leary as Captain Stacy.
Really good.
Really good.
Yeah.
Really good.
Everybody understands these assignments in these movies, man.
And what Captain Stacy's character does is he's essentially like the J. Jonah Jameson, like, equivalent insofar as, like, he's the one that's telling us that Spider-Man is a monster, but, like, you kind of believe him. You know what I mean? He makes kind of like a compelling case. Yeah. You're like, yeah, maybe Spider-Man is a jerk.
Yeah.
And he comes off as a guy who, like, legitimately is looking out for his daughter, too.
Yeah, and his family. Like, he feels like a family man. Like, these characters feel more, like, Tobey's characters felt more, like, realistic from, like I said, a drama perspective of, like, on-stage acting, but these feel more real in terms of, like, how people would normally react if these things were happening. And that's good for character. What I'm going to get into later when we talk plot is the inverse of that again, is the characters understand that, but the plot, that's the issue, because the biggest... So I got a couple issues with the plot. Like we said, these aren't the best Spider-Man movies. No. They're not. What the sell of these movies are the characters and the acting. What the problem is, things always happen as if somebody is like not throwing darts at a board. Somebody's like, this needs to happen right now. It's like your first draft of something. Like, something needs to happen, so this needs to happen. It's like you're following like an outline.
It's like there's an arbiter of the universe hovering over the movie. Yeah. Like, he's pulling the puppet strings. Like, okay, now this person needs to be here. This person needs to be here. This person needs to be here. Instead of it like kind of happening organically. And that's where I think this movie kind of... Both movies... kind of stumble.
It's the biggest. I think that's the biggest issue, because the biggest in-universe plot issue is his parents. It's a big issue. So
particularly in the second one.
Yeah, because I told you the first one I understand why they did it, because it was like the inverse of Tobey. We didn't hear anything, and then this one, because it made more sense because of Kurt Connors too, why they would introduce his parents, because his father and him worked together. If they would have left it at that actually would have been kind of cool. But then the second one doubled down times 1,000 from the studio.
I think I told you when I first started the second one, I said, am I watching a Spider-Man movie or a National Treasure movie?
Yeah, man. Yeah. It's...
Sally Field and Martin Sheen.
Yes.
Good Uncle Ben and Aunt May.
Great actors.
Sally Field is also playing Aunt May, by the way.
Yeah.
Not Uncle Ben.
Are you sure? She gives him some Uncle Ben lines in the first one, and in the second one. She gives him a lot of Uncle Ben lines.
But no, both of them are good. I particularly like her in the second one.
Yeah.
The dynamic between her and Peter is really fun, and again, really natural. You know, when he's trying to do his laundry, and she's like, "No, I got it," and she's being like the overbearing aunt who like lost her husband, so like she just needs stuff to do, and she like wants to take care of her nephew, like he was her son, and he's like, "All right, laundry sheriff."
Yeah,
which is like
it's so quippy. Like that's so Peter Parker. But yeah. Martin Sheen, also good, gives the roundabout, not literally saying with great power comes great responsibility, but the roundabout of it. And Martin Sheen, again, he's very connective with Peter too, which I really like. He's very, like, Martin Sheen and Andrew Garfield really play off themselves really well. And it gets into one of my favorite bits from the first movie. And that's when he gives him the line that he said, because I think it's said, like, I think Uncle Ben's supposed to be older, right, than Peter's dad. I'm pretty sure that's how it's supposed to go. But he says there's like a moral philosophy that your father used to follow, blah, blah, blah. And Peter said, okay, so where is he? And it's so natural. And then this is me singing the praises of Andrew Garfield. Man, I think he is the best Spider-Man actor that we have had.
Yep.
He's such a great actor. I mean, I can just rattle off his movies now, and you would be like, yeah. I mean, guys worked with some of the best in Hollywood.
You might have heard of a little film called The Social Network.
Yeah. Yeah, Tick, Tick, Boom this year, I mean, is getting him legitimate Oscar buzz. I mean, like I said, I think he's the best actor. Obviously, we got to Tom Holland's 25 years old. He's got so much.
I'm going to dovetail a little bit. I'm planting my flag in this right now. I said this before, but it's not real until I say it on a podcast for people to listen to. I think if, quote unquote, he's in No Way Home, he is 100%. But if he's in No Way Home, whatever screen time he's given and however long he's in this movie, he's going to steal the scene in every single scene he's in.
Yeah.
I will guarantee, Charles Barkley style, that Andrew Garfield, people are going to walk out of this movie feeling different about Andrew Garfield.
Yeah. And
they're going to be like, wow, that guy was legitimately great.
Yeah, and it's funny you said that, because now that I think about it retroactively, we've already talked last week and some this week about kind of how Tobey Maguire's Spider-Man in. He's very like in universe in terms of being a guy that really is down on his luck. But Andrew is the actual Spider-Man Peter Parker in universe. And I'll say this once we get to the second one, he understands that the best out of any Spider-Man, of like what Spider-Man means in a universe in New York City with people around him, just helping kids, helping an old lady. Like, he gets that 100%. And I like that point you made, because there's like the Tom Holland, like, we don't like him because he's Iron Boy Jr. There's the Tobey Maguire, people don't like him because he's old. And there's Andrew Garfield, who's right in the middle. And
people are just like, we don't like him.
Yeah, we don't like him because, and then, like you said, this movie could be the one where it's like, oh shoot, why did we not like him again?
He's gonna be good.
Yeah.
I feel it in my bones, because this guy has had to put up with pretty unfair criticism.
You jerks.
Yeah,
let this man live.
Leave Andrew Garfield alone has been a staple of this podcast for several weeks.
Yeah,
now.
This is an Andrew Garfield stan podcast, and this is a Fast and Furious / Andrew Garfield stan podcast.
This guy has had to put up with crap for 9 years.
Yeah.
About how he's not as good as Tobey Maguire and his movies are garbage, and he's going to be like, oh yeah, watch this, watch me do some acting.
Yeah, I was next to Silver Lake.
Next to these other guys.
Yeah,
I'm going to be in the movie with these other guys, and I'm going to act. Not saying he has anything against these other guys, but he has something to. I think he feels like he has something to prove, because he had a really bad divorce from Sony over these movies.
Yeah, because he easily could have been Spider-Man in the MCU. Not easily, but it could have happened.
He had a really bad divorce from Sony over these movies. There was no indication that he ever wanted to come back, and something brought him back to this, and it's not money, because this dude does indie movies, he does Netflix movies. It's not money bringing him back to this. And
I think he's on the up and up. He's
feeling himself right now.
Yeah, I feel like he's on like a Robert. I don't even want to say it like that, because Robert Pattinson had a really bad. Because I don't think it was ever in denial that Andrew Garfield was like at least a decent actor. I think Robert Pattinson, people legitimately thought he was a bad actor, and then he just started going nuts from like 2013 on. So.
Yeah, I don't think people left the Amazing Spider-Man movies in 2012 thinking that he's a bad actor. I think they left those movies thinking he's not as good as Tobey Maguire.
Yeah.
And I'm like, hold on.
And well, I mean, that goes back to a point that we talked about before we hopped on. Everybody's something's either really good or something's really, there's no more middle ground. Like, that's just a societal thing. And they're like, we don't have a middle ground anymore. Something's either the worst thing we've ever seen or the best thing we've ever seen. And that shouldn't be the way we operate.
Yeah.
It really shouldn't.
So I think, like I said, it's not the money that brought him back to this. I think it's the chip on your shoulder that's bringing him back to this. That he knows he's going to be with these other two guys, and he's going to be like, yeah, watch me work now.
Dude, he's in his prime. Like, this is prime.
Andrew Garfield.
Dude, this is like Spider-Man PS4. I told you this. This is like Spider-Man PS4 Spider-Man. That's who Andrew Garfield. That's who he feels like the most. Like, stuff happens, it sucks, but like, I got an eviction notice, but I'm gonna go on this gargoyle in New York City and eat some pizza. Like, that's what I get from him.
You could also argue that it's a meta thing too, that this is the best Andrew Garfield's been in his career.
Yeah.
And he's coming into this thing probably in the prime of his career as an actor.
Right.
Alright, so yeah, I deviated from
plot. So what happens in The Amazing Spider-Man 1?
So Peter Parker, he's a kid.
He's a young kid.
He's effing and jeffing. He gets into Oscorp because he wants the science so bad, which is cool. I like that. Meets Kurt Connors, who worked with his father, and he shows up at Kurt Connors' house, and Kurt Connors is like, can you not? And he's like, I'm Richard Parker's son. He's like, well, that changes everything.
Yeah. Come right in.
And then Peter Parker's like, hey, you know that thing that you spent your whole life dedicating research to? I solved it.
Yeah.
So Kirk Connor's whole thing is cross-species genetics. It's the conduit by which Peter Parker is bitten by the spider. Peter Parker's like, hey, hypothetically, if, someone were to interact with this, these species and they were perhaps bitten by a radioactive spider, how much would the other species take over? And Kirk Connors is like, well, it's never happened, so don't worry about it. And Peter Parker's like, all right, we'll see.
I'm Spider-Man. But yeah, let's get into it. Get into the lizard a little bit. So Rhys Ifans, I like him as an actor. I think that's really. Is
he coming back for this, or is the lizard just CGI?
I don't know if they're just going to get his voice, or I don't know if the lizard's just going to yell. That's my fear too. I don't just want the lizard just to roar in this role. I want him because. We'll get into it right now. Rhys Ifans gave a really good performance. Yeah, especially in the first half of this movie. When he got his arm back, I was like, oh wow, I actually feel this.
Yeah, so that's the mechanism. Is the reason, not the reason he's doing the cross species study, but a lot of the reason is because he is a man with one arm, and he feels that by not crossbreeding, but injecting himself, not himself, but theoretically.
Yeah, he does it.
I mean, he does it because he's desperate, but.
And he's a comic book villain.
Yeah, so he wants his arm back. He longs for his missing arm, as anyone without an arm probably would want. So yeah, and that's his whole reason for. And then Peter cracks the code, and he's like, "This is my golden ticket." And then those bastards at Oscorp are like, "No, you're going to use this on Mr. Osborn because you're going to save his life."
Which you do get the payoff in too, because when he goes to take care of his hands are they're scaly and they have claws on them. So they did use it.
Yeah. And so he becomes a lizard man.
Arc, you like it?
I like it up until the ending where he's like, everybody should be lizards. Weird plan.
Yeah, it feels very. We had the subtlety of this young adult Spider-Man movie.
It should have been more personal.
It should. So that was my thing that I said. It was great up until about the school fight, and I think they took out a scene. I think I saw this morning. They took out a scene where he would see the lizard turn back into Kurt Connors, and he would crawl back into the sewer, but Peter would just let him go. If they would have kept that in, that probably would have been good, because it's just showing his youthful humanity of the benefit of the doubt of this man was still this great man that worked with my father that is not a bad guy. He's just something bad has happened to him.
Yeah, they just went superhero mode with the ending and be like, the villain needs a city conquering plot. Does he?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, that would have played into the subtlety. Like I said, it would have played into the subtlety. He still
could have killed Captain Stacy if he wasn't trying to turn the whole city into lizards.
Yeah, he definitely could have, and I agree with that 100%. But yeah, Rhys Ifans, great. I really liked his performance. It was just, like I said, I said this when we talked about Dune. The number one thing, in my opinion, that you need to worry about with science fiction, and I know Ridley Scott's been in the news recently as being the angry old man in Hollywood, but one thing he
angry
really
man yells at clouds.
Yeah, one thing he really did well with Blade Runner, his Blade Runner, and then Denis Villeneuve did with his Blade Runner, Arrival. It's just that human element that you bring to sci-fi, because it's not personified without people. People need to live in the world. So the same thing applies for this. In the first half of this movie, you really feel Kurt Connors has really been working at this. It's even to the point where he's like, I finally cracked it, and they said, you need to give this to Mr. Osborn. He's like, Jesus, I just got this. You look at me, I don't have an arm. I just want to try to better myself. That's it. I think they cut out a scene with his son as well, which I would have probably kept in the movie. This movie was only 2 hours.
Yeah.
Yeah, it was shorter. Yeah. So, yeah, man. I did like his performance up until about halfway, right on the cusp of the third act. That's when it just starts.
And then he veers into supervillain territory for really no reason.
Yeah.
Like I said, the ending is not great as far as execution. Like I said, it gets very superheroic when it didn't need to.
No.
It could have been a very self-contained kind of Lizard versus Spider-Man, and there's people in danger. Captain Stacy is there because he's a cop, I really love the outside looking in of it too, of the city itself. So I want to talk about the city. So we kind of covered plot, kind of covered character, so the actual setting. So this is my favorite New York of the entire Spider-Man franchise. We don't see a ton of New York in Holland's Spider-Man
No, we
movies.
don't. But again, those are not his fault.
No.
Toby's, like I said, it was more personal for him, and it had to be. That's what the whole plot was about. But this one, like I said, it feels.
And you feel that in the Raimi films too, that it's more personal. Even with this, you're talking about the city, that city feels like there's 5 people living in it. Yep. And they're all the main characters.
Yeah. Sure. But this one, you feel New York City in this one. I mean, in that, Dennis Leary as Captain Stacy kind of helps that, and giving him a different perspective, because we don't get that. We only get that perspective from J. Jonah Jameson in the Toby movies, and it's still very from his lens of looking at Spider-Man as on behalf of New York City.
Yeah, he's like, great, now I got a nut job in the ski mask and a leotard, and now you're trying to tell me there's a giant lizard. Get out of here.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, and I mean, it even goes down to the moment where all the crane operators...
I hate that scene.
Yeah, it's very cheesy. I mean, the third act of this movie, I understand what they were going for, but
I understand what they were going for, too, but you didn't need that whole thing where, like, his leg's injured so he can't, like, adequately web swing, so, like, all the crane operators in New York City decide that they need to help Spider-Man. I'm like...
Well, that goes back to the point that we had, me personally, that I had for these movies, was things always get put somewhere. Like, it doesn't feel organic for most of the parts. That's, like, that's just a storytelling issue in general. Like, nothing should feel forced into the plot to make sure something gets to the next point.
I said this to you, that it's a weird paradox in this movie that you have actors that feel incredibly natural, but a plot that doesn't.
Yeah.
And there's a clash there, and that clash rears up in the first one, and mostly in the third act, and the second one is littered with it.
Yeah, the whole movie. It's the whole movie. But yeah, 100%. So first one ends with Kurt Connors reverting back to Kurt Connors, so he's no longer the lizard. Last second, he replaces the serum that would have turned everybody in New York City into a giant lizard, into an antidote. Again, the same thing, the Ganali device, it's the MacGuffin of the film. Basically it's this device that if you put something in it...
It's a mortar, essentially.
Yeah, it would disperse the entire atmosphere of whatever city that you're in, or the cloud structure, whatever it is, with whatever antidote that you need to put in it. Like, let's just say there's a cure for... We could use that. We might be able to use that now. That might be the worst thing now. But yeah, that's the layman's terms of it. It's in the place. They have a throwaway line, and then obviously, because they have a throwaway line, it needs to be paid off in the third act to be the biggest thing there. So,
Captain Stacy dies.
Rip.
Yep.
Sorry, Dennis Leary. You deserve better.
That's pretty much it. And then there's the bit where Captain Stacy's like, promise me you'll stay away from my daughter forever. And he tries, and then they get to the end where they're in the classroom, and he's late, and the teacher's like, you're late again. He's like, it won't happen again, I promise. She goes, don't make promises you can't keep. And then he looks at Gwen Stacy, and he's like, but those are the best kind, which doesn't make sense.
But it's also going down to why I like him so much as Spider-Man. It's those subtle moments.
It's just a weird line.
Yeah, it's weird. Yeah, it
like, the best
weird.
Promises are the ones that you can't keep.
It's a weird thing to say after your girlfriend's dad dies. Okay, I can do that.
And then she like does that like little smile, and you're like, oh no, like they're still in love, and you want them to be in love. I can't stress that enough.
Yes.
How much you're rooting for those two to be together.
Yeah.
Which goes back to your point that it's a young adult movie. Like, I don't care about the Spider-Man stuff. I just want these two kids to be happy together.
You know what I feel about it? I felt the same way I felt from the Power Rangers movies. The first 2/3 of that movie, it was the same thing. It was. I remember I saw that movie with some friends, and we were like, did we actually like that movie way more than we thought? And I was like, it wasn't from the third act of the big Goldar, whatever, Zord's fighting. It was from the first 2/3 of, like, actual character building and character time and people being, actual stuff that happens to people to evolve them as characters. Like, that's what I find so much more interesting in that realm. So, yeah, it was really good.
You want to talk about the quippiness quick?
Dude.
And how good he is?
So, I wanted to say, like, we can run through some scenes that we particularly like, because there's a
car thief scene.
Yes, there's another scene I like, but go ahead, because you talked about this scene to me at least 4 times over the past
car
week.
Thief scene is, you talk about Spider-Man, dude, there's a car thief, because he's looking for Uncle Ben's killer, so there's a car thief. This is his first, like, he's in the actual suit, and he just pulls up in the guy's car, and the guy's like, he just goes, the guy whips around. He's like, what are you, a cop? And he's like, oh man, seriously? Like, you think I'm a cop? And then it's just like, he's just a jerk to the guy. He's like, God, go ahead, get out the window. He's like, great move. And then the guy pulls the crotch. He yells crotch before he takes the guy down. And then the guy pulls a knife on him, and he's like, oh God, is that a knife? Like, oh no. He like drops to his knees, and then he just quick webs into the wall. That's Spider-Man right there. Boom.
Agreed. Yeah, really good sequence. And again, how he interacts with New York City. The police pull up, and he's just like, I just did 80% of your job. You're not grateful?
Like, come on.
Interaction is great. A scene I actually liked more upon the rewatch was the fight that he and Lizard had in the school. And I think it would have been even better if they kept in the scene of him letting the Lizard go afterwards. I mean, it comes down to, it's really him on the cusp of becoming a potential really great Spider-Man. And I think they said in the second one, like, an amazing Spider-Man. It's him taking on this big giant lizard in his school and him being like, get everybody out of here right now. I got this.
And everyone leaves except for
Stan Lee. The only one in the school because he's got headphones
and Gwen Stacy.
And Gwen Stacy.
Who is, well, I guess we'll talk about this between now and the other one. She gets a whole lot to do in these movies. She's a necessary character. She directly impacts the plot. And Peter.
For the better.
Yes.
Look at you, MJ.
Yeah. Emma Stone is amazing in these movies. And she's great as a legitimate heroine. Mm-hmm.
She's like somebody I can legitimately see be Spider-Gwen if it was another universe.
I wish that would happen. I don't know. It probably will never happen.
Yeah.
But I wish that she could have been afforded that opportunity.
She met Ryan Gosling and she turned big. She's not coming back.
Nailed it.
Yeah. To your point, in her own right, she's so funny as Gwen Stacy. She's funny, she's endearing, she's really like heartfelt as well.
And she does what MJ doesn't do in the Raimi movies, where Peter's like, oh my god, like, you can't be around me, I'm Spider-Man. And Emma Stone's Gwen Stacy is like, I don't care.
Yeah, I love you.
Like, I'm here.
Yeah.
I'm here, and you're going to deal with it.
Yeah.
And we're going to talk about in the second one how that turns out very tragically for her. But she doesn't put up with his crap. She's like, you may be a hero, but I can do some things. Mm-hmm. And I'm going to do some things.
She's extremely smart. I'm talking like first in her class.
She helps him with Electro.
Yeah, she does. She's very smart. She's very capable. That's the number one praise I can give her.
So I love the way that they portrayed that character in these movies.
Really great job. Really great job.
So speaking of great jobs, Amazing Spider-Man 2.
Yeah, that's a movie that came out. So real quick, end credit scene of Amazing Spider-Man 1. There's a guy in a fedora and he tells Kurt Connors, we're putting together a team. He gave the same line that Thor gave in Thor Ragnarok, where he's like, we're putting together a team.
Yeah, I wouldn't worry so much about the guy in the fedora, because it's never going to pay off.
Yeah, he's in the second one.
He is, but again, it's never going to pay off.
Yeah, because
who was that masked man?
Because the MCU.
Who was that masked man? We'll never know.
Yeah. We do know, but who cares?
We do know, but nobody cares.
Yeah.
So 2 years later, Amazing Spider-Man 2 is released, and boy was it.
Yeah, it was. I specifically, this movie was really hyped because it wasn't an MCU movie. Because 2014, I think it was the summer of 2014, if I'm not mistaken. Mm-hmm. So it's before Guardians, but after Captain America: Winter Soldier, I believe.
And this is when people were really kind of the clock was turning, right? Everyone was like, okay, so Spider-Man's over there doing his own thing. But what if? What if
he were in the MCU?
Yeah.
And Sony said, boy, what if he were in the MCU? Let's throw every single thing that we can put into this movie at one time.
Because we don't need him to be in the MCU.
Yeah.
We can do our own thing, because we're Sony.
Mm-hmm.
Hell yeah.
Yeah. I love the irrational confidence Sony has. It's crazy. So yeah, we're on Amazing Spider-Man 2, and again, you open up with his parents in a prolonged sequence, and it's like we said, it's the biggest issue with these movies. It's things are always being put into place. It never feels organic. So the opening of this movie is literally his parents leaving him, and it's the full scene of the beginning of 1. It's his parents leaving him, getting on a plane. His mother's killed. His father is killed, quote unquote, because there's a deleted scene where his father comes back. Spoiler alert. But yeah, it's just, I don't care. I don't.
Nope. The compelling thing about these whole movies.
Yeah, the extent that I want to see is what we got in 1, and that's still a little bit more than I would have asked for.
Yeah, we saw way more than that in the second one.
Yeah.
Looking at you, Secret Subway.
Jeez. But you know what the worst part was, in my opinion, too? I think it was he fought Electro, and then he immediately went to getting that board. I'm like, where is this coming from? Like, it didn't feel real. Like, I was like, why is he so adamant? I don't know if I missed something. He was like very like adamant about finding the truth about his parents. I was like, you just fought Electro. What are you? I thought you resolved this and you were okay with everything. Like, I don't get it. Especially after Uncle Ben died, I thought it was like, okay, I'm fine.
Yeah, like that was my dad.
Yeah.
I don't need my dad.
Right.
And now it's all of a sudden I need my dad.
Yeah, it was such a weird flip in the movie. It almost feels like there was a scene missing. That's what I felt like. I don't know. Like I said, I don't know if I missed something, but I don't think I did. It just, he fought Electro in Times Square, and then he immediately went crazy person to trying to find out who his dad was.
Yeah. However, after that sequence with his parents, we get a absolutely glorious Spider-Man opening scene.
So, I'll take it. I'll take this real quick.
Yeah, go ahead.
So, I was talking to some people over the last couple of days, and I made the argument, and I said, listen, if we all know who Spider-Man was from when we were kids, whatever, birthday parties, whatever, media, whatever it may be. It's like Batman, Superman, Spider-Man are like the three, right? If I were to show somebody that's never seen any Spider-Man live action media, the opening scene with Andrew in 2 and the last 4 minutes of 2,
which we'll talk about,
it's the most pure Spider-Man you will ever get, in my opinion. Like, that's what the core of Spider-Man is. It's him swinging down and it was the line that gets me every time. He's like, what do you got for, he's swinging in front of Oscorp, and he's like, what do you got for me today, New York? Like, that's it. That's exactly what it is. And I mean, Andrew Garfield on top of that sells it. It's the sell of this guy, this young man in New York that just got these spider powers, that's feeling himself a little bit. To your point, he's feeling himself a little bit.
Saved the city.
He saved the city already. So now, just like Doctor Strange, what we see in No Way Home, he's feeling himself. He hasn't, obviously his girlfriend's father died, but she didn't let that stop them from being together. And that's another actually pretty good bit of this movie with the two of them.
That she's the one who's fighting for it.
Mm-hmm, not him, which usually in a lot of other stories it would be the other way around. Mm-hmm. But yeah, dude, it's so good. So Paul Giamatti is the most comic book crazy, ramp it up to 11 person in this whole movie. So Paul Giamatti is the Rhino, but he's Alexei Sixevich. He's just, it's a meta thing. He's driving a big truck through New York City, and he's got graduation the same day. And
Gwen's giving the valedictorian speech.
Yeah, really deep speech too. That's kind of, it's like the underlying. Yeah, it comes back around. But it's just him like descending from the heights of New York City into the city, him just swinging through. Somebody's like, Spider-Man, he's like, hello, pedestrian. So then he saves, obviously, Max Dillon, which Jamie Foxx's Max Dillon, which turns out to be Electro. But he even tells him, even in that moment, he's like, you're my eyes and ears out here. I need you. Like, this is my city. Like, I need you.
Pick up these blueprints. These are important. You need these.
Like, everybody's important. Like, he gets that. Like, it's so refreshing to see something like that.
He knocks on the window. He's like, hello, Mr. He does, like, the motion with his arms.
Right. Like, any, like, cartoon or, like, especially like 90s Spider-Man, like that's what you get. Ultimate Spider-Man, like that's what it is. That's what you get from that, and it's really fun to watch.
He's on the phone with Gwen, and she's like, "Are those sirens?" He's like, "No."
Yep. Yeah. He's like humming the 60s Spider-Man theme while beating up the Rhino. It's like all those little Spider-Man things that
genuinely makes me laugh. I told you this before we hopped on that Maguire's Spider-Man never made me laugh unless it was ironic laughter from something absolutely silly that was happening. I don't know what that was. But, yeah, he genuinely makes me laugh. He's funny.
Yeah, he's
funny.
Yeah, he's got so much depth to him as an actor and as that character. There's so
Speaking
much
of
more.
depth, Harry Osborn's in this movie.
Why?
Dane DeHaan is good.
Oh, yeah, that's not the issue at all. I actually don't hate his Green Goblin as much as other people do, but that's another thing that we talked about with like a big issue, like a societal issue, is like everything's so grand. So like they saw him and they were like, oh, this is bad. I'm like, is it fully bad or is it his fault? It's not his fault that they told him you're going to be Green Goblin. He was probably like, cool, I'm playing Spider-Man's Joker. Like I'm playing like the biggest Spider-Man villain there is.
But they don't treat him that way.
No, they don't.
Which is a shame.
And again, back to the forcing things. It feels so forced that they're best friends from childhood. Like you get that from James Franco and Tobey Maguire. Like you get that they're friends.
They have a decent kind of back and forth in Harry's mansion that lets you know like they're friendly.
They're cordial.
Yeah, they're friendly with each other and they can joke with each other in ways that people probably can't joke with Harry Osborn because he seems very kind of like up himself.
Yeah.
Maybe not up himself, but he seems very distant from a lot of people.
Yeah, but I mean, that attests to the fact that this is probably the best acting that we've seen in any of the Spider-Mans.
Yeah.
Is this one. It's just, you're getting good actors from across the board, like to your point of Aunt May and Peter. It feels so good, so refreshing and so good because the acting is so believable. Mm-hmm. So, yeah.
So yeah, we'll get to Green Goblin a little bit later because he plays a big role in the third act, which again, much like the first one, is not great, save for a few very emotional beats that kind of not save it, but make it watchable at least. So yeah, we'll get back to Harry, but then the other antagonist, I guess you would call him the main antagonist, is, you mentioned Jamie Foxx is Max Dillon. He falls into a thing of eels.
Zapped.
Yeah, he gets zapped. Then all of a sudden he's a Dr. Manhattan Man, which a lot of people crap on that design, but it's accurate.
Yeah, it is.
Accurate
it is
design.
comic accurate.
It's comic accurate.
People don't read comics. That's what the issue is.
Yeah,
They saw one issue as like a kid, and they were like, "That's it. That's the only thing that it is."
Comic accurate for Electro. I like the journey that character goes on, but I don't like the way he walks it, if that makes sense.
I can see what you're saying. I see what you're saying.
It comes across very goofy and caricature at times.
And then there's times where it's but then there's times where it's really good.
I mean. That's what I'm saying about, I like the journey, but I don't like the way he walks it. Especially in the beginning, it's very
it's funny. It's usually the other way around. It's usually like towards the end, I'm like, oh man, I don't like where this is going. But it's the beginning where I'm like, why are we starting like this?
Yeah, why is he like so over the top lame? Like to the point where like I get it. He's supposed to be like a Spider-Man fanatic who wants to be noticed, but like it's way over the top.
Yeah, it is
in a way that none of what I've seen from the first movie like prepared me for. It was so over the top.
Yeah, I feel the first movie was so, and retroactively watching them back to back, the first one was so much more subtle than the second one was.
It was the glasses. It was the gap in his teeth.
The hair.
It was the comb over hair. It was like the love shrine to Spider-Man. It was the birthday card that he made up for himself because he wanted to be noticed.
I'm not gonna lie, I did laugh at that bit where he's like kind of holding it out for Gwen.
So she noticed it. And she's like, oh. Is it your birthday?
He's like, oh yeah, it is.
He's like, oh, how'd you know?
Oh yeah. Oh, the birthday card. Oh, some friends made it for me. We're gonna have a big party.
That's fun. Jamie Foxx plays it well.
Oh yeah. This is not Jamie Foxx's fault. No. Let's get into it because you want to talk about the Times Square sequence.
Really good.
Yeah, and
really good action scenes.
Yeah, it's bigger than I expected, the sequence, but it's also more grounded than I expected. It's a really good example of how you crescendo a scene. So it starts with Jamie, he's walking into Times Square. Peter leaves, and obviously a great moment with him and Emma Stone, because when isn't it? And he gets there, and it's the same thing like we said. He's in New York City, like in these big pieces of New York, like the most famous pieces. So he's in Times Square, because we've never seen anybody else in there yet. And so he's there, right? Electro's starting to get there. He pulls on a grate. He starts to feed electricity. And then Peter gets there, and like the score starts to like, you start to feel it a little bit. Hans Zimmer, by the way, did this score for Amazing Spider-Man 2. And the beginning, like I said, the beginning.
Boy, does he.
Yeah, like I found myself humming this theme throughout the last 2 weeks of me rewatching this movie. It's probably the most. It was that one, and it was the end piece of Toby's score. So that Danny Elfman just went absolutely nuts on. It's like, I think I said it last week. The composers for these three franchises are nuts. Hans Zimmer, Danny Elfman, and Michael Giacchino. I'm like, what? This is insane. But yeah, so we're in Times Square. It's starting to crescendo a bit. So
Electro's freaking out.
Yeah, but I love the way they bounce off each other, and I love like the little teeters that Peter's starting to make towards him. Because another thing that you pointed out, Electro's you made the joke about Dr. Manhattan. He is powerful. Like, this is probably the most powerful on-screen villain we've ever seen for a Spider-Man.
Besides Thanos.
I'm not counting Thanos. Not counting Thanos. He's an Iron Man villain. You can't prove me wrong.
He's a protagonist, is what he is.
Yeah, he is. Thanos was... Shout out Hawkeye for saying what we're all thinking.
But no, back to your point about so he just got his powers. He's freaking out because he's a big blue man.
Yeah.
And he was already like an outcast and a loser. And yeah, really good scene.
Yeah, like I said, it's like it starts to tick. So then he gets a little closer, and then Max is starting to go, and it's working. Like Peter's starting to calm him down a little bit more, and he's like, "Hey man, we'll figure this out." And that's a testament of why Andrew Garfield's so good as
because he understands what Electro's going through.
Yeah,
he's like, "Look, I know it's scary, and you're in the middle of this giant crowd, but like, just focus on me." You know, it's like hostage negotiation.
Yeah. Well, the scene's longer than I thought it was.
Yeah, me too.
Because I hadn't seen this movie in a while, and I like the fact because sometimes scenes are overdrawn. Like I think this was the perfect amount of this is the perfectly timed scene. So it starts to ramp up a little bit more, and he says, "Nobody shoot at him." He's like, "This is my friend Max." I love the fact that he like forgets who he is, and he was just like, "You don't remember me?" He's like, "Of course I remember you. I'm the one with the paper." He's like, "Yeah, Max." He's just like, "My name's Max," and then Peter's like, "Is it Max?" He's like, "Oh yeah, it is Max," and it's just like.
It shows that there's still humanity in Max at that point, even though he's this monstrosity. Yeah. He's still human. It's kind of like the opposite of Kirk Connors and later Harry Osborn. That there's still some humanity there that Peter is latching onto. Yeah. He notices it. He sees that there's still humanity in Max.
He's afraid.
He's trying to hold on to that, and then some loose unit sniper pops off.
Yeah. So the Punisher's on the top. No, I'm kidding. It would have been funny if it was him, but yeah, sniper takes one shot. Obviously, the bullet disintegrates, and that goes to how powerful he is. The bullet disintegrates, so then the NYPD just open fire on him, and just the bullets can't touch him. It's just evaporating in thin air as soon as it comes close to him.
And then it's a turn.
You know what? One part I actually really like. It's that subtle. It's the voices. I felt the same way when I was watching Dune. It's funny. Like, the little voices in his head, he's just like, Spider-Man's my friend, and then it just flips. It's like, Spider-Man's my enemy, and then it gets bigger and bigger until the point where...
as this is happening, Spider-Man's saving people, and the screens on Times Square are flipping from Electro to flipping to Spider-Man. And then... Yeah,
it hits the ground and it's like the score crescendos and it's like boom, and then the whole thing is like Spider-Man's my enemy, and he just takes out everything, and it just launches it into a pretty good slow motion scene where the famous steps in Times Square, he just pulls everybody off the railing so they don't get...
It's all conducting electricity and people will get fried if they touch the railings. It's really good.
Yeah, really good sequence. Shows Electro's power, but also shows the humanity of Electro, like you said. It shows the humanity. It shows the relationship that Peter can have with some of these people, and like the impact he can have.
Yeah, and then he Captain Planets him. You're all washed up, Electro, and then Electro is dismissed. We're not going to talk about the Spider-Man in the subway with his dad.
Let's just gloss over it.
Over that.
Let's just gloss over it so people. So, is it because he meets Harry? Is that why? Or does he meet Harry after?
No, it's after. He meets Harry before that, because this is where he gets in the whole thing of Harry needs Spider-Man's blood to save his life because he has goblin disease that he inherited from his father. Don't worry about it.
Spoiler alert, they kill Norman Osborn in his first appearance in this movie.
Yeah, he dies from goblin disease.
That's not a joke of what Rob's saying.
The goblin disease gets him.
Yeah. It's a real thing.
He's a real jerk to Harry, too.
Yeah, he's the worst. It's so funny that I keep pinpointing the acting, because I actually really like it. He's like, on my 16th birthday, you sent me scotch. Or moreover, one of your assistants probably sent me scotch because you didn't care about me.
And Norman's like, yeah, because you suck, Harry.
Yeah, you do suck. Yeah, you're the worst.
Anyway. See you later.
Yeah, see you, man.
Oh, he also goes, you're going to die miserably.
Yeah, that was crazy. He said, yeah. The last parting words from me, you're dying. Sorry.
You're dying, and you're going to die a horrible death like I'm dying. Anyway, see you later.
Yeah.
I'm off to hell.
Yeah, best regards, Norman Osborn. So, cool. Norman's dead. Harry's dying, and he needs Spider-Man blood. So, this movie has two plots. It's the Electro plot, and it's the corporate conspiracy Oscorp, his father plot.
And Gwen's going to college.
So 3 plots. And Gwen's going to college and Peter's trying to, it's kind of like, where am I going to go after this? Like, that's what it is. Like, he's looking at Gwen starting her life. He just graduated college. I actually wish they would have replaced, now that I'm saying it now, I wish they would have replaced all the conspiracy stuff with his father with that whole theme of the movie of, you're going to college, like, what's your next step as Spider-Man? Because you're about to launch into a 3rd movie. What's the next step? Is it, are you following Gwen? Are you staying in New York City? Like, that plot would have been so much better.
So he's like, Peter, you know Spider-Man, right? And Peter's like, yeah, I know him. And he's like, you think he'll help me out? And Peter's like, I don't know, I'll ask him. And then he shows up as Spider-Man. He's like, nah, I can't help you. It could do irreparable harm to you, Harry Osborn. You saw what happened with Kirk Connors. I don't want that to happen to you. It's a bad argument from Peter.
We had the same thought when this happened.
Because he's like, you could die. And Harry's like, I'm already dying.
Yeah, I can't die more. He's like, it could turn you into something else. But you stopped that in the last movie.
Yeah, so, yeah. And then, like we said, so secret subway. So Peter is conspiracy, trying to figure out what's up with his dad. He thinks his dad's a loser and a bum. He smashes his Texas Instrument TI-84 calculator against the wall.
To the music of Philip Phillips.
And then he's like, oh my God, subway tokens. And then he's like, Roosevelt. And then it becomes national treasure.
Yeah, it does.
He's like Googling frantically. He's like, Roosevelt, subway, abandoned. Got it. Click, done.
Crazy that he Googled that and got that.
So he goes down to the subway.
Worst secret place ever.
Yeah, puts in the secret subway entry coin, and then he gets a video message from his dad who's like, my name is Richard Parker, and this is my story. Did all these things, science, and I injected my own DNA into the spiders, and then something, this is the only way, something, Norman thinks it'll save his life, but it'll actually kill him, yada yada. I destroyed all the spiders because I don't want it to, so that's the last remnants of my genetic code in these spiders. Not knowing that his son will become exposed to the same spider years later.
The Watcher's the only one that knew. He probably looked down and be like, that's convenient.
So guess what? Peter Parker, it's your destiny to become Spider-Man. Mm-hmm. Lame.
Yeah.
Lame.
Yeah, why did we do that? It's like, that kind of just negates the whole great power, great responsibility argument right there, because it's not the destiny of you have to become Spider-Man, which I know some comics deal with. It's the other side. It's more, you got these powers, what are you going to do with it?
It's the opposite of the, like and we go back to Into the Spider-Verse.
Right.
Where he goes, I'm afraid the suit won't fit. And the Stan Lee, who cameos in Into the Spider-Verse, says that's the thing about the suit. It always fits.
Yeah.
In the Amazing Spider-Man universe, the suit won't always fit.
Right.
If anyone else got bit by that spider, they'd be dead.
They would die or turn into a monster.
A spider monster?
I guess so.
Ugh.
That would have been funny.
Nah, I hate giant spiders.
Yeah. A little creepy.
So yeah, it's Peter's destiny to become Spider-Man, and this makes him weirdly encouraged by his father.
Yeah.
Anyway.
Hostile takeover at Oscorp.
Yeah, Harry's out.
Yeah.
He's out.
And then also, guys, Electro's also still in this movie.
Being tortured.
Yeah, and then again, to the point of things need to get placed like a chess match into this plot. So then, of course, Harry's like, me and you, Max, like, we're together in this. And I'm like, no,
we're the same.
Yeah, no, you guys are not. No, you're not.
Harry's like, well, I'm dying, and you're dying.
Yeah,
dying?
No, you're Dr. Manhattan. You're not dying. You're the opposite of dying.
And then, but this is where we get menacing Electro.
Oh my, he clears that room.
Evaporates. He can travel through electrical currents now, which he didn't know he could do.
He can summon clothes.
He has that really great line where the one guy's like, he says something about not knowing the full extent of your power. And Jamie Foxx is like, when I get out of here, you're going to know how powerful I am. I'm like, ooh, boy.
No, if they would have made, he is the main villain, but if they would have doubled down on him being the main, I make the same argument for Sandman in Spider-Man 3. If that's your main core of what you're going off, and you do more character work with the actual hero, because the second one, you're supposed to break your hero down, and their version of breaking down in The Amazing Spider-Man 2 is him discovering the future, but it's not really a breakdown. His breakdown comes from Gwen Stacy, but that's the climax of the film.
Yeah.
Spider-Man 2 with Tobey, that's why people, and why I also think it's the best Spider-Man movie we've ever gotten, because it understands the breaking point of a character. Like, strip away everything that they hold dear to them.
So Harry and Electro team up to repossess Oscorp, because Harry is going full mental at this point to cure his goblin disease.
Oh my god. No.
So Electro...
There's a suit there!
Yeah, the Green Goblin suit.
Oh my god.
You're the Green Goblin now.
Why?
So he goes down the secret stairs to Oscorp's basement, where they're like, hello, this is where the Sinister Six is happening.
Yes. Yeah.
Welcome to the Sinister Six basement. Choose your gimmick.
It's just Amy Pascal sitting down there.
Choose your gimmick. Which Sinister Six would you like to be?
Yeah.
And Harry Osborn's like, well, I'm Harry Osborn, so I'd like to be the Green Goblin. And they're like, right this way, Mr. Osborn.
Injects himself and immediately starts just deforming his body.
Here's your glider. Here's your costume. Here's your bombs.
I paused the movie there and I was like, whoa. I was a little like, geez, we really just did that? The suit's just sitting there?
And then Harry Osborn's like, all right, Electro, thank you. Go kill Spider-Man. And Electro's like, copy. So, big showdown. Big fight time. Big ding, 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 ding. The fight of the century, Electro versus Spider-Man.
Still another game. You want to talk about, before we get into that fight, I just want to talk about the kind of the last time that Peter and Gwen are like together as Peter Parker and Gwen Stacy instead of Spider-Man and Gwen Stacy. So it's the argument which I think this film should have latched onto and ran with in terms of character building, and it's where do we go from here? Like, we're not immortal, so where do we go from here? What's the next step for us? And Gwen took that step, and she said, "I am going to
Oxford,"
and Peter said, "I'm going to follow you." Really smart writing choice, in my opinion.
It's the reverse Corey and Topanga.
Yeah.
Instead of her staying with him, he's going with her. Good move.
Yeah, I'll fight for us.
I can be Spider-Man in London.
Yeah, they have crime.
Yeah,
they have crime.
Great. Yeah, great scene. And then kaboom! He does the "I love you" on the bridge, which could be cheesy in a worse movie, and like. It could be cheesy with worse chemistry. But, like, for those two characters, you totally believe
That's something he would do.
Yeah, it's super romantic. Like, they're like, I think, like, Spider-Man's up on the bridge, but he's making a message for someone. And Gwen's like, oh, yeah? And she looks, and it says, I love you, and webbing. And then he sees her from, like, across Brooklyn. he swoops down, and he takes her to the top of the bridge, and he's like, nah, like, I love you. Like, to hell with what your dead dad says. I want to be with you. And then kaboom! The city loses power.
Yeah.
And he's like,
Yeah. So, I love the bit. So the city loses power. And then going back to the science of why they're so good as characters, they're also not just people that like each other. They're actually smart. They actually are smart.
He's like, I don't know how to stop Electro. She's like, well, have you tried this thing? And
Did you pay attention in 8th grade science? He's like, no, my dad died. He's not really paying attention. So, yeah.
And then, again, like, much like in the first one, she's like, I'm coming with you. And he's like, no. Super dangerous. No, you're not coming.
Yeah, and then he breaks down. He's like, oh, you're coming with me. Sure. She's just like, okay. He's like, just put the hood of that car down. And he webs her to the car.
He totally sucks her.
Yeah, and she yells Peter, and she covers her mouth. I'm like,
yeah, that's great.
I love that.
She's like,
she goes,
Peter. She's like,
oh my God. Oops.
So, yeah, fight of the century, Electro versus Spider-Man.
Another good... I like the Electro... Spider-Man fights in this movie.
Electro's playing music off the power lines, and Spider-Man's like, I hate this song.
You think he's going to do it in No Way Home?
I hope so.
I think they're going to do it.
I hope he does.
Yeah.
They get in a fight. Guess what? Gwen Stacy can't hold her down. Can't hold a good girl down.
Yeah.
She shows up at the power station, and he's like, what are you doing here?
But then he says, can you help me real quick?
Yeah, he's like, because she makes a really lot of good points. She's like, you can't beat him without me, basically. You need someone to turn the power back on. You can't fight him and do that. And he's like, yeah, all right, yeah, you're right. So she goes up, and she freaking helps him. And she turns the power back on, and Electro explodes.
Yeah, into a possible another universe.
Yeah, goodbye.
TBD for another 9 days from when you guys hear this.
Yeah, it's a great job, Jamie Foxx. Your role is done. And then guess what? The Green Goblin appears.
Yeah. Oh my God. All you hear. What was he doing for the last, 3 hours?
Watching. Getting a hold of the glider thing.
Oh, yeah. You think it's a little... He just had to learn a little bit?
He was practicing.
Yeah.
He was watching new Goblin footage from Spider-Man 3.
I could just see him, flying around, Harlem or something for a little bit, and then, okay, I got it. Now
he's like, I got it. And then he watches Electro explode. He's like, ooh.
Yeah, time for me to swoop in.
Well, he swoops in. He does his kind of fake Willem Dafoe laugh. He's like, ah, ha, 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 ha. Like, where did that come from?
Yeah.
He lands, and then...
He's disgusting.
I actually like this moment where he looks at Spider-Man, and then he looks at Gwen, and he's like, Peter. Oh, Peter.
Yeah.
He's like, so you're just a jerk.
Yeah, you're not my best friend.
And Peter's like, wait, and then zoop.
Yeah, takes her right away. I don't hate this scene as much as other people do.
I think once you get past the crazy goblin look, it's actually pretty compelling.
Yeah.
Because Spider-Man is essentially fighting for his life without fighting for his life.
Yeah, he's fighting for his heart. That's what he's fighting for.
Yeah. And he loses.
Yeah, he does. So it's not overly prolonged, but the fight, I just love the shot of him swinging across and trying to hit him with the web, but missing each time he does it. I'm like, oh man, he's about to lose. Like
he's catching Gwen, and then Goblin does something, then he drops her again, and then he you think she's safe because he webs her and he puts her down on that clock thing, and he's like, you stay right there, I'm gonna take care of him, and then the clock the gears begin to implode, and she falls.
Yeah.
And I'm not in love with the stylistic web hand thing, reaching out to her. I didn't love that, but I can get past it. And she fucking hits the ground.
Yeah, they really played it. That doesn't even feel like a peach.
It's pretty brutal.
Yeah, it is brutal. It's real. I always cringe every time I see it.
Because there's no music behind it. There's music up until she hits the ground.
And it's just
splat.
Yeah. I'm like, wow, they killed Emma Stone. Just like
yeah,
that.
and like I said this when Uncle Ben dies and when Gwen Stacy's dead. He sells it not like a movie character. He sells it like an actual person.
That's my biggest compliment
He's like
for these
hyperventilating and he's panicking and he's like, "Hey, like you're gonna be okay. Like just stay with me. He says stay with me like 5 times. He's like, stay with me, stay with me.
He's like it's like the stages of grief he goes through. He's like confused. He's like, Gwen, like,
yeah, he's like, did this just happen? Like, and if you're not a person who knows the comic book history of Gwen Stacy, like, you're feeling the same way.
Yeah, changed comics. It did. It really did.
You're feeling the same way. You're like, did that just happen? Like, did he really not catch her? Like, did she really just die?
Yeah, because I mean, if you look at it, so it's Amazing Spider-Man 121 to 122 in 1973. So at the time, comics are they're very nice. Hero saves the girl. Day's good. They go about their thing. Next, I'll see you again, Spider-Man. Whatever it is, and
we'll meet again, Spider-Man.
Yeah, Will Dafoe actually said, oh my gosh, I can't. These 9 days are gonna kill me. I need this movie.
Yeah,
but. Yeah, it's very cookie cutter, very simple, and then I love the way they title it. It's not like it's the night when Stacy died. Like, it's very ominous of like, oh shoot, are they really gonna do this? And then, oh shoot, they actually did it. Like, it's just really good in the way they go about it. So yeah, she hits that ground, and it's like, wow, his biggest villain did what he was going to do. That you don't see that. Like, you really don't see the villains win like that. And it's not even a win. It's just
Harry survives too.
Yeah, he does.
It's not like Harry dies. He loses the fight, but he wins the war.
Yeah, he does.
Essentially,
yeah.
He takes Gwen from her, and Spider-Man no more. He's Spider-Man no more.
Yeah, he does, and it's a really prolonged period of time passes. He's just not Spider-Man. The city's getting worse, and he's just, I'm not
watching
doing
it unfold. And he just doesn't care.
Well, he's like 20, maybe 21, because of the amount of time that passes, and just like, yeah, I don't care anymore. I lost my girl. I lost the one thing that was keeping me Spider-Man, and I can't do it. But then true heroes can't fold under the pressure. They always have something that brings them back, and it gets into,
and it's Paul Giamatti.
It is Paul Giamatti. No, but it gets into the overarching theme of this episode.
Let's talk about this. This final 5 minutes.
Yeah, and I talked about it before. It's the core of Spider-Man as a character, Peter Parker, the comics that you read.
So the city, Paul Giamatti's back, and basically what happens is Harry Osborn returns to Oscorp, and they're like, all right, well, you did your job.
Good, we need to make it. Yeah, thanks for setting up Amazing Spider-Man 3.
Good on you, Harry. You did your job, but we have all these cool costumes and nobody to put them in. And they're like, I got it. And Harry Osborn's like, I could think of one guy. Smash cut to Paul Giamatti in a metal rhino suit, freaking running amok.
Yeah.
Peter's in his room. He, is
watching...
Listening. Is he watching or is he listening?
He's watching it, yeah.
He's watching Gwen's valedictorian speech, which he missed most of. And then that inspires him, basically. Pulls the suit out. You don't know. Well, he doesn't. He looks at the suit, and you're like, ooh. And then Rhino's there, and take it from there.
Yeah, so... He's sitting there on his bed, and it's just the subtle acting that Andrew Garfield has. It's this little smirk that he gives of I need this city as much as the city needs me. She is the best of what this city is, so I can also be that. That's what I took from it.
That's a good interpretation.
So yeah, it's just this little kid, and it's what Spider-Man and what these heroes, if I'm to go a little deeper, what these heroes can really do in modern media. It's the inspiration piece. That's my big thing for Andrew. He's so inspirational as Spider-Man. So this kid, so earlier in the movie, it's just a quick point of him being Spider-Man in New York, which I like so much, of this kid getting bullied, and then he just drops in and the boy's running. He's just he made a wind turbine and he webs it up and he just walks with the kid. So that same kid, so that same kid, he has his own Spider-Man suit, obviously inspired from that encounter, and he runs in front of the Rhino, and they tell the police, stop shooting, and it's this kid. But that's what it is. It's he inspired this kid to go in front of a criminal in a mechanized suit that's literally destroying parts of New York right now, because of that's what Spider-Man is. It's that inspiration. I mean, Into the Spider-Verse plays it really well, but this is live action, my favorite piece of that theme and that kind of motif that you kind of present. And Andrew starts swinging in, and it's like the music cuts and he's just swinging. You hear the thwips, you hear it, and then he lands, and then people just immediately they switch, and it's like this hope that you get from it. You get this
Spider-Man.
Yeah, and then the kid turns around and he's just like, he said, "You did a great job." He said, "But I need you." The
bravest kid I know.
Yeah.
Thanks for stepping up for me.
Yeah. He said, "But your mom needs you right now.
I'm gonna go take care of this jerk." He says.
Yeah.
And then he snap of the fingers, flips back into like Spider-Man mode, and he grabs a megaphone and he's like, in the name of the 5 boroughs of New York and real rhinos everywhere, put your mechanized paws in the air. Yeah. And my favorite part of that scene is the rhino is like ranting and raving, and Spider-Man goes, or Andrew goes, "You want me to come down there so you can kill me?"
Yeah.
He's like, "Yes!" He's like, "Be right there."
Yeah, and he throws the megaphone.
Yep.
Yeah, and then it's just Hans Zimmer score ramps up. He grabs one of the plates, a manhole cover, and is just deflecting it, and it's just this big wide shot of like, that's it. That's exactly from like a non-character development piece of like the hero action. That's it.
It's amazing.
There. It's
no pun intended.
It's pun intended for me. It's amazing. It's amazing. And like I said, the first opening 8 minutes of Andrew and the last 4 minutes of that's my favorite Spider-Man bits of live action I've ever seen.
Yeah. So I hope we turned you around on these 2 movies. So like last week, I kind of want to just briefly talk about where we think we're going to see Andrew Garfield inserted into No Way Home. I think we've kind of already talked about this, about where I think he's going to be inserted. He's going to come in as kind of like the version that we see at the end of this movie. Prime of his life, really on top of the Spider-Man shtick, and that he's going to come in as the quote-unquote, like, heroic Spider-Man. Like, he's going to know what he's doing, he's going to be ready to roll, and then ultimately, I think he's going to kind of share the same fate as Gwen Stacy.
Yeah, I could definitely see that. It's Spider-Man, PS4 Spider-Man. That's why I feel from Andrew.
It's a perfect comp. It really is.
His life sucks, cool, but he's still, Peter Parker's not a negative person. That's just not who he is, for the most part. Mm-hmm. Obviously, some things can overbear over your emotions, but at the real core of what Peter Parker is, it's that hopeful, it's that youthful exuberance of, I can attack every day, and I'm gonna bring this energy to us, this positive energy. Yep. It's gonna kill everybody with this. And it's so, I can see him when we pick up of like, I'm in the prime. Like, this is me. Like, I am Spider-Man in New York City. I think I said to you, so before I was like, oh my God, what if he's like fresh off the black suit? And it's like, he had that experience. But then I think they're going to ramp it back because at the end of the day, this is still Tom's movie. Like, I don't want to get that. This is really Tom Holland's last movie in this first franchise. Like, this is his. It's not going to be anything like that. So, yeah, I can really see him just prime day to day in New York. I think I told you the one thing I think would be interesting is that I think it's just the Social Network in the back of my head, just thinking like the 2015 post Secret Wars comic of like Amazing Spider-Man #1 of him being the head of Parker Industries. Like, I can see that from Andrew. I think that's an interesting place to pick up with him.
But yeah, I mean, I talked about it earlier when I went on my little diatribe about how I think he's going to be really good at No Way Home. And I think a lot of people are going to come away from that movie being like, wow, he's a good Spider-Man. Which ultimately I think is his mission, honestly, going into this movie, is making people recognize him as the great Spider-Man that we both think that he is.
His name suits him. He is the Amazing Spider-Man.
So next week.
Oof, we're getting down to it.
So next week is going to be, we're going to cover Spider-Man Homecoming, Spider-Man Far From Home. Probably talk a little Civil War, Infinity War.
Yeah, Endgame. It's like we're going to talk Homecoming and Far From Home, but it's also going to be it's the MCU. It's the impact that Spider-Man had. Yeah.
And then obviously a big kind of preview for Spider-Man No Way Home also.
Mm-hmm.
So that's going to do it for us. You've been watching anything?
Well, I finally watched The Power of the Dog, Jane Champion's latest film, and man, Benedict Cumberbatch, he is menacing. He is such a good actor. Like, when it's said and done for him, he's probably going to go down of like one of those actors where people are like, oh yeah, he really was one of the best actors of his generation when he was there. He's just, you get this like uneasy fear from him the whole movie. I mean, you get these beautiful wides, so it's basically, I love the ambiguity of the plot though, because the face front plot is, it's these two brothers I think they're in Montana in 1925, and they go to this town. They're ranchers, the one's more business oriented, the one's more actual with the other guys on the ranch. It's Jesse Plemons and it's Benedict Cumberbatch, and Jesse Plemons meets a woman, Kirsten Dunst.
Hey!
Yeah. Oh, she's really great in this film too. She kind of plays like a descendant, like a descent into an alcoholic of a mother that's like really like nice and like just face front, and then it just gets really bad for her. And the new Nightcrawler, Cody Smith-McPhee, plays this unorthodox, like, it kind of, one thing I really like about this movie, it kind of bent, it was kind of like, a big piece, thematically wise, was it was kind of the questioning of masculinity, especially the 1920s and like before, of how it goes, because there's some reveals about specifically Benedict's character in the movie. But yeah, it's really challenging, but I really like movies that kind of challenge like that. Not challenging and like the plot's overly complicated, like the argument that Tenet gets for whatever reason, but it's just it's complicated and it's complex in the way that the characters interact with one each other and how they rationalize their own thoughts. It's really thought-provoking and really good. So, I mean, one of the best shot movies of the year. Like I said, there's some extremely beautiful wides in this movie that I just couldn't get out of my head. Score really good from that movie too. And then Benedict Cumberbatch's performance, man. Oh, wow. Yeah, he's going to get some buzz. I can definitely see him content, because before that movie came out, I just thought this was Will Smith's award to lose, but now I can definitely see some contention between the two of them.
Cool.
So yeah, what else we're on the clock because the Flash starts in 2 minutes. We're on the clock.
So real quick, just been playing through Spider-Man PS4 again because I've been on a Spider-Man high.
Yes.
So I've been playing through that, and then the Game Awards are tomorrow, which I don't really care about any of the awards. So much so as the Game Awards has become like December's version of E3, where there's a lot of reveals, a lot of first looks, a lot of like what's people have been working on. So I'm looking for 2 things mostly: Final Fantasy 16. Possibly make an appearance. Super excited for that. And whatever NetherRealm Studios is working on. Could be Mortal Kombat 12, could be Injustice 3, could be a Marvel fighting game.
Ooh, Marvel fighting game would be interesting.
So I think whatever NetherRealm's been working on the last 2 years, I think since MK11, will probably be revealed tomorrow. So I'm looking forward to that. Like I said, don't really care about any of the awards themselves, but looking forward to see what's being revealed. But that's mostly it.
Cool. I hope Avengers vs. X-Men would be a really good...
Ooh,
that would be interesting.
Yeah. So yeah, that's going to do it for us. Next week, the Holland Spider-Man movies. You can follow us on Twitter at ProjectINF_pod. You can like us and look for us on Facebook. You can follow us on Instagram at
The Project Infinite Pod.
Beautiful. You can email us at...
You can Gmail us.
You can Gmail us, theprojectinfinitepod@gmail.com. That is going to do it for us. I am Rob, and for the... Man, there's not a lot of good characters to pick from.
Just give me Andrew, man.
The Andrew Garfield of the podcast, ladies and gentlemen.
You guys didn't see it, but I had a fist pump. So excited.
All right, guys. We'll see you next week for the MCU Spider-Man / No Way Home preview. 9 days until Spider-Man No Way Home. Until then, goodbye.